What's up, guys? Mr. Octagonal here from Octagonal Gaming. Now, yesterday I uploaded my March Madness bracket predictions. I uploaded my bracket. By the way, you can join a bracket group. I'll leave the details in the description. I've talked about it before. The winner gets 15 new subscribers, and the people who are in are DatBoy2K, Royal and Poison, Omari and Jake, and Jace Ball Gaming. I believe that's everyone else. I'm pulling it up right now. So, if you want to join, then the app is called ESPN TC. You have to make an account. And am I ready? Yeah, it's those four: Jace Ball, Omari and Jake, Royal and Poison, and DatBoy2K, and of course me. Can't forget about me. So, today I'm uploading a more detailed version of my bracket, explaining why I chose each team and stuff. So the first one is the Virginia Cavaliers, the best overall team in the country, and the UMBC Retrievers. But with the 1-16 games, I don't really think I need to go into too much detail. A 1 seed has never lost to a 16 seed, so I'm picking Virginia. Creighton, Kansas State, bit of a toss-up. I want to pick my Big 12 teams as a Kansas fan, but I am going with Creighton. This is definitely pretty tough. One of the tougher choices to decide. I think they're both good teams, but yeah. Next up is Kentucky and Davidson. Davidson was 1 point away from not making it, but yesterday they won the Atlantic 10 Conference Championship over Rhode Island, which is the only reason why they're here and stopping a team like Notre Dame from coming. But Kentucky, they're one of the hotter teams in college basketball right now. I think they're the best team in the SEC. They did win the SEC championship, simply because Tennessee and Florida aren't that good. I think both of them got overseeded, and Auburn lost McLemore, who's really good. So I think Kentucky right now is the best team in the SEC, and I have been beating Davidson. Arizona and Buffalo. Buffalo, I'm assuming, are the MAC champions, and Arizona is really good. Player like Raul Alkins, Alonzo Trier, and of course DeAndre Ayton, who I think should be the Wooden Award winner, and I think the best player in this tournament. Miami, Loyola, Chicago. This one was a very tough one because Miami's a really good team. Bruce Brown, Lonnie Walker, I really like both of them. But Loyola Chicago is actually a very very talented team, and I do have them beating Miami in a nail-biter. Tennessee and Wright State. Wright State played in their conference championship against Cleveland State, and Cleveland State had like 12 wins. I'm going to pick Tennessee. As I said, I'm not too high on Tennessee, but I mean, yeah, who else? Who else is there to pick? Because Wright State probably not going to get out of there, but like, I don't know how Tennessee is seeded higher than Arizona. That's kind of disgusting. Nevada, Texas. Nevada is a very good team with the Twins. I forget their last name for a second. The Martins, Caleb and Cody Martin, I think. But they're going to be taking on Texas and Mohamed Bamba and Kerwin Roach. Mohamed Bamba, one of the best rim protectors in college basketball, and he will be one of the best rim protectors in the NBA. And I do have Texas winning this game. And last but not least, Cincinnati, Georgia State. Georgia State is a 14 seed, upset Baylor a couple years ago. But I have Cincinnati winning. Cincinnati, one of the weaker 2 seeds, but I have them beating Georgia State. So now on to the second round. Virginia, Creighton. Virginia, they were the best team in college basketball this year. They only lost 2 games, only 1 in-conference game. Kyle Guy and the Virginia Cavaliers. It's going to be hard to beat them. Kentucky, Arizona. Kentucky, as I said, they're a really good team. I think they're the best in the SEC. But DeAndre Ayton is too good. Even though Wenyen Gabriel is like 7 for 7 from 3, I think, in the semifinals against Bama, I think DeAndre Ayton is just too good. Loyola, Chicago, and Tennessee. As I said, Tennessee, I think they got seeded too high. And Loyola, Chicago, they're a very solid team, and they're one of my Cinderellas headed into the Sweet 16. I have a couple of the Cinderella-like teams. Texas, Cincinnati. I think this should be a pretty interesting game, but I do have the Cincinnati Bearcats climbing out on top. Virginia, Arizona. This one was probably the hardest prediction of the whole thing. Virginia, hard to stop them, but DeAndre Ayton is so freaking talented. I have to go Arizona. I'm probably going to regret that, but I think Arizona's going to win in a nail-biter. Then Loyola, Chicago, and Cincinnati. I think the road ends here for Loyola, Chicago, and Cincinnati, and Arizona will make the Elite 8. I think Virginia is better than Cincinnati, and I think Virginia and Arizona should be playing in the Elite Eight, but since how this is the bracket, then it'll be Cincinnati and Arizona instead. I will be getting back to Cincinnati and Arizona in a minute, but we're going to go through all the other regions first. So first we have Xavier and North Carolina Central, I believe, and some other team. I'm picking North Carolina Central in that game. I'm picking all of, like, the first 4 games. There were no first 4 games in the first bracket, so I guess there's 2 first 4 games in one of the other brackets. Yeah, I guess Villanova's bracket, there are 2. So I'm picking North Carolina Central to win that game, and I'm picking Xavier to beat them simply because Xavier's a 1 seed, obviously. Missouri, Florida State. Florida State, not quite as good as last year, but still a really good team. But we have not seen Michael Porter Jr. yet. Maybe he'll be really good like some of his other freshmen like Bagley and Sexton, Trey Young, DeAndre Ayton, of course. So I have Missouri winning this one. Ohio State and the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. Probably the second best name behind, of course, the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. And this is a tough one, but I'm going with the Jackrabbits. I want to have some upsets in there. I've been high on Ohio State this year. I've been high on Keita Bates Diop. But I'm going to go with the Jackrabbits in an upset. Gonzaga, and I don't even know who that is, but I'm picking the Zags to win this one. The Gonzaga, not as good as they were last year. I don't think they're going to make it to the Final Four of a Natty or anything. But I do have Gonzaga winning this one. Houston, San Diego State. Houston's played really well this year and very deserving of that 6th seed. But San Diego State, they beat Nevada. They're a little bit of an under-the-radar team, but I'm going to go with Michigan, Montana. Michigan, they're red hot. They have had like 2 weeks off, which I don't think goes for their favor since they're red hot. But I'm going to pick them over Montana. Texas A&M, Providence. I'm high on Texas A&M. DJ Hogg is a very good player. Robert Williams is a very good player, but I'm going with Providence. They are red hot as well. They were playing really well in the Big Ten tournament. They beat Xavier, and they almost beat Villanova, and Xavier and Villanova are both 1 seeds. Last but not least, the University of North Carolina and Lipscomb. I don't know how to say that, but we're going with UNC. So Xavier, Missouri. This one's an interesting one, but I'm going with Trayvon Blewett and the Musketeers. So no more Michael Porter. Gonzaga, South Dakota State. I almost picked South Dakota State, but then I realized, yeah, it's a terrible choice. So I went with the Zags to make it to the Sweet 16. San Diego State and Michigan. I'm going with Michigan. And Providence, North Carolina. I'm going with Providence. So the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds are in the Sweet 16 for this region. In the other region, the 3 seed Tennessee didn't make it, but the 1, 2, and 4 seeds made it. So I'm going with Xavier and Michigan. I feel like a lot of people are going to pick Gonzaga and North Carolina in these games, have a rematch of last year's championship. But Xavier, they're a 1 seed for a reason. I don't think they should be a 1 seed. I think that should be like Michigan State or Duke or something. But I have them over the Zags, Michigan, and UNC. UNC is a great team. Joel Berryfield, Pinson, they're great players, and this one was a pretty tough one to pick. But I think Michigan is a really good team, and they are red hot. So I'm going to pick the Wolverines. Now that we have Arizona and Cincinnati, as well as Xavier and Michigan playing in the Elite Eight, I'm going to pick my Final Four for those teams, and I have it being the 2 lower-seeded teams, Arizona and Michigan. So Cincinnati, I don't think they're good enough to make the Final Four. I think they're a great team. I don't know if they should be a 2 seed, probably a 3 seed. No lower than a 3 seed, though. Cincinnati's a great team. But Arizona, DeAndre Ayton, they're too good. And I know there's the distraction of the whole $100,000 thing with the DeAndre Ayton and Sean Miller, which I was going to take into an account, and I probably would have picked Virginia to beat Arizona. But DeAndre Ayton has played so well since then. Like, he has been on fire. And Arizona, I think they've only lost once since then, and that was the game that Sean Miller didn't coach, so that doesn't really count. I think that was their only loss against Oregon. And meanwhile, Xavier and Michigan, I don't think Xavier has the strength to make the Final Four. And for the 2nd straight year, I've been losing in the Elite Eight. Mo Wagner and Michigan, of course, I still think they're red hot. I think they're a very, very good team. And now onto the other side of the bracket. And then, after we figure out who's in the Final Four for the other side, we will predict the national championship. Here is the next side. First, we have Virginia And LIU Brooklyn or Radford for the play-in game. I'm going with LIU Brooklyn. And I'm going with Villanova to win for obvious reasons. Virginia Tech and Alabama. I'm going with the Crimson Tide. John Petty's a phenomenal player. Of course, Colin Sexton's one of the best freshmen in college basketball. He's up for the Wooden Award. I think Virginia Tech is really good. I believe they beat Virginia. I think it was Virginia Tech and West Virginia who beat Virginia this season. And I'm going with the Crimson Tide to beat the Hokies. Or Hokies, however you say it. West Virginia, Murray State. Murray State, I think they only have like 5 losses. But I am going with the Mountaineers. Coming from someone whose favorite team is the Big 12, I'm very high on West Virginia. I think they're a great team. I'm not too huge on Bob Huggins with the whole ref thing. Maybe the 35 free throws to 2 free throws was a little strange. But I think West Virginia is a great team. Javon Carter is a great player. Or Press Virginia, I should say. Wichita State and Marshall. Not too huge of Marshall as they just beat my Hilltoppers. But regardless, I'm going with Wichita State. Their first year in the American Conference went pretty well as they are a 4 seed. But I'm going with the Shockers to not really shock Marshall, but beat them. Florida State and St. Bonaventure or UCLA. I think regardless of who wins the play-in game, I think both of them will beat Florida. And I have the St. Bonaventure Bonnies beating UCLA and Florida. I think Jalen Adams is I think that's his name. He's a phenomenal player. UCLA is a very good team. I mean, if they had LiAngelo Ball, then they'd be getting steals left and right. Their perimeter defense would be insane. He has 1 steal and he hasn't even played a game yet. Like, that's incredible. But I'm going with the Bonnies to beat UCLA as well as Florida, Texas Tech, and Stephen F. Austin. Coming from a Big 12 person, I think Texas Tech is great as well. Keenan Evans is a really good player, and I am going with the Red Raiders. Arkansas and Butler, I'm going with Butler. I don't really know how Arkansas is a 7th seed. Daniel Gafford's a good player, but Butler's better. Purdue and CSU Fullerton. Purdue, they're the better team. Enough said. Villanova, Alabama, I think Colin Sexton is great. But Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, they're better than Alabama. Pretty simple. West Virginia, Wichita State. I'm going with West Virginia. These are 2 very good teams, but I think West Virginia is better. St. Bonaventure and Texas Tech. I'm going with Texas Tech. So the St. Bonaventure Adventure. I didn't even realize I was going to rhyme. But the Bonnies' time of a big dance will end, and I have Texas Tech making the Sweet 16, as well as the Purdue Boilermakers beating Butler. So, Sweet 16, Villanova and West Virginia. I might regret this one, but I have West Virginia beating Villanova. I think West Virginia is great. I think Villanova is great too, but I'm going with the Mountaineers. Texas Tech and Purdue. Isaac Haas, Carson Edwards, they're too much for Keenan Evans, and I have Purdue and West Virginia battling it out in the Elite 8. And now we have the final region. So, first, Kansas and Penn. Pretty self-explanatory. Kansas is a 1 seed. We're going to go with them. Seton Hall and NC State. This is certainly a toss-up. But I'm going to go with the Wolfpack. I think this is a close call. But I'm going to pick NC State. Clemson, New Mexico State. Another close call. But I'm going to pick New Mexico State to upset Clemson. I don't think Clemson is all that good. I think they're good. But they're not insane. So I'm going to go with the Aggies. Auburn and Charleston. I think Auburn's not going to be that good since McLemore is injured, but I do think they will beat Charleston. TCU and, I almost said Austin Seferian-Jenkins, but Arizona State and Syracuse, I think Arizona State's going to play on game, but I do think TCU will win. So I have TCU advancing, and they will play Michigan. Bucknell's an okay team, but Michigan's better. Rhode Island and Oklahoma, I almost picked Rhode Island here, but I think Trae Young will be too much for the Rhode Island defense. And then Duke, Iona, I'm going to go Duke. Kansas and NC State. I'm going to go Kansas. Pretty easy. New Mexico State, Auburn. I think New Mexico State's really good. I have them going to the Sweet 16. But I also had them going to the Sweet 16 last year, so this may not work out. TCU, Michigan State. I have Michigan State. I think Miles Bridges is superior. And Duke and Oklahoma. Sorry, Trae Young, but you're out. I have Duke winning. At the end of the Sweet 16, New Mexico State's run will come to an end as I have Kansas winning that game. And the Michigan State Duke, this is definitely a toss-up. I'm going with the Spartans here, but it really could go either way. So now we got to figure out who makes the Final Four from the other side. So first, Purdue and West Virginia in the Elite 8. I believe West Virginia's road ends here. I think Purdue is a really good team, and I think they'll make it to the Final Four. Meanwhile, Kansas and Michigan State. Michigan State has some great players: Nick Ward, Miles Bridges, Jaren Jackson Jr., but I think Devontae Graham and the Jayhawks will outplay them, and the Jayhawks and the Boyle. That leads us with just 4 in Arizona, Michigan, Purdue, and Kansas. So Arizona, Michigan, Purdue, and Kansas is my Final Four. And I have Arizona beating Michigan to advance to the national championship. DeAndre Ayton is better than Mo Wagner, so I have Arizona making it. And now we'll find out if Kansas or Purdue makes it. 2 seed Purdue and 1 seed Kansas. Purdue is a great team, but their road will end here, as I think Devontae Graham and Kansas are too good. So that means we will have a national championship of Kansas and Arizona. I picked Arizona and Kansas to make the championship last year, and I picked Kansas to win it. Didn't quite work. Why not go for a second chance? I think Kansas will beat Arizona. Sorry, DeAndre Ayton, but I think Kansas is just too good. And I believe that the Jayhawks will win 81-73. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Drop a like and subscribe. And hopefully I am right. And I'll leave the details to the group in the description down.